One of the main goals has always been to have someone who kind of represents what you think your country stands for. I don't think many people knew how broad his hobbies were or how much he supported an incredibly large number of groups. A simple family lunch was planned, something calm, low-key, and quiet. On the Balmoral estate, there were only the royal family members. They were away from the cameras, the news, and the stress of job. There were no press agents or people in uniform moving around. Picnic blankets were spread out on the grass and baskets were filled with homemade baked goods and cold sandwiches. There was a light breeze blowing through the trees. They were only there to be a family. In other words, everyone could breathe a little better that day. The kids played chase in the grass without shoes, going from tree to tree. The adults drank from paper cups and talked about everything but the crown. It wasn't about rank or jobs. The cousins laughed. Old stories were told and people enjoyed the rare chance to be themselves, even if it was only for an afternoon. Things were different by the end of the day. The joyful setting that was spreading all over had gone away. People's smiles turned into serious looks, and somewhere between the picnic blankets and the nearby garden path, someone said something quietly that changed the mood. It wasn't loud, it wasn't clear, but it was enough to make things different. So, what did they really say? Let's find out. Princess Charlotte and Queen Camilla were at the center of it all. The smart 9-year-old daughter of Prince William is named Charlotte. She has always carried herself with a quiet strength. A lot of people who know her say she has her father's calm and her mother's ease. She is the second child and only daughter of Prince William and Kate Middleton. Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana was born in May 2015 and is fourth in line to the throne. And sometimes when she looks at you, she looks a lot like Princess Diana. Beautiful, calm, and with eyes that seem to see everything. Charlotte wasn't a princess that night. The kingdom would not be saved by her. As a little girl, she wore socks and a cardigan and sat on the floor with her brothers and uncles. They laughed as they drank warm cocoa and played chess. She was glad, until someone said something that changed everything. It began with a look. While Camilla had just walked into the tent a few minutes before the game started. She wasn't wearing a crown, but just being around her always made things feel important. She smiled nicely at the adults, gave them a polite nod and looked around the room until she saw Charlotte. It was cold outside, and the child was sitting on the floor with her legs crossed. She had cards in her hand, and a soft laugh on her lips. Camilla did not like how she was sitting in this position. The light of her steps made the blanket that was on top of the grass shine. George and Savannah both gave her a quick look, but they didn't say anything. Camilla's voice was soft and almost kind, but what she said made the air thick. She said, "That's not how a future queen acts." Charlotte looked up, not sure what to do. "We're just playing a game," she said softly, not sure what she had done wrong. Camilla kept her smile on. A lady should always sit up straight, especially if she knows she will be watched her whole life. The next part changed everything. She added, "It's sweet," and her voice stayed nice. "How your mom lets you act so carelessly, just like Diana did with her kids, and we all know what happened. There's a prince, and the others were a collection of memoirs." Charlotte shut her eyes. But one day Camilla said with her eyes on her, "You'll get it. It doesn't matter if you're having fun. It only cares about how you look when you do it." George looked up from his seat at this point. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. Even though, based on the way his face turned red, those words hurt him a lot. Charlotte moved in a way that made her feel bad. She sat up straighter and left her cocoa alone. She went back to her cards and tried to get back to the game. Camilla wasn't done yet though. Camilla said in a soft voice, "Your mom means well. She does forget sometimes though. She's not the queen. I'm worse. She is also training you in a way that is sure to end badly." After those words were said, there was silence in the room. It wasn't the easy kind. A rapid drop in sound like glass breaking off in the distance summed up the sound. Charlotte shut her eyes. Then she spoke. "But what did I do wrong?" she asked just above a whisper. "What did my mom do wrong, or?" Camilla cocked her eyebrow. Her words changed, but not her tone. "You don't know, of course. That is the issue. You feel like you're unique because of this system, and this family." She now gave her a direct look in the eyes. "There is no softness or warmth. You're not though. You're just a princess who will get married soon. That's all." Camilla turned around and left the room as soon as she finished speaking. There was no doubt or second look. She quickly crossed the yard. She looked calm and almost happy, like nothing had happened. King Charles stood a few steps away and looked up at the clouds. He didn't know that a storm had just passed inside the tent. Camilla joined him as if it were any other afternoon. She smiled softly, adjusted her dress and spoke softly enough that no one could hear. But when she went back to the tent, the silence she left behind said it all. There wasn't any yelling or a scene, just words that hurt more than either. Even if the person was only 9, the words were meant to tell them of where they stood. Charlotte didn't cry right away, but she stood still and held her cards. To her chest, her shoulders were stiff and she walked across the room to someone she knew she could trust. Not to Kate or William, but to Anne. What Anne did next made everything different. "Watch out. In the court, Princess Anne was known as the Iron Daughter because she never played politics or tried to make the news. She just showed up every time. She didn't make a fuss, but she didn't mess around with the royal children either. She didn't cry, but Charlotte walked right up to her. At this point, her face was already very pale. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Her small fingers curled tightly around Anne's as she reached up and grabbed her hand. When Anne looked down, she saw right away that something had changed. There were 2 quick blinks and the forced silence that always comes before tears. Slowly, she got down on her knees and asked, "What happened, love?" That's when Charlotte's bottom lip started to shake. She told me I wasn't special in a whisper. That my mom is raising me to be like a prince from another time, and that one day I'll get married to someone from another time. After a moment of thought, Anne asked slowly, "Who said that?" Charlotte turned her attention to the tent's edge. Then she raised her hand and pointed right at Camilla, but she didn't say a word. The name was enough for her. Anne got it right away. Anne didn't move for a very long second. She looked at Charlotte's hand. Even though her face stayed calm, the way she stood told everyone what she was feeling. She stood with her shoulders squared, her chin up, and her hands slowly clutched at her sides. Since this wasn't the first time. When the queen died, Camilla said something rude to Charlotte at the funeral. There wasn't a scene because everyone had heard it. It fell and was forgotten in public. Not by Anne though. Not today though. Not when the family just wanted to have fun. Now Anne stood up straight, calm but in charge, with a voice that isn't too low to be quiet but loud enough to be heard. "No child in this family will be talked to like that," she said. "Not while I'm still alive." It wasn't a loud sound, but it was like a knife cutting through the room. Camilla got cold. Anne put her arms around Charlotte's shoulders and knelt down next to her. Another person couldn't hear what she said, as she tucked a piece of hair behind Charlotte's ear. No matter what it was, Charlotte could barely hold a smile. Anne stood up and looked at Camilla. This time Anne's voice was like steel. "Things go badly for the girls in this family when they are made to feel small. That's not going to happen again." There was not anything else to say. Charlotte was led to Kate by Anne, who took her hand. There was no drama or yelling, but everything had changed. Anne took Charlotte's hand, and nodded when she was done talking. There wasn't any fear, it was just a quiet choice. Kate was sitting under a tree, watching the kids from a distance. She turned around and walked quietly across the lawn with Charlotte toward Kate. Kate stood up as soon as she saw them. Anne dropped the subject right away. Her voice dropped, and she told her everything that had happened. Kate didn't talk over her while she was talking. Instinctively, she quickly reached out and grabbed her daughter by the arm, pulling her close. Charlotte grabbed her mom around the waist with both arms, and wouldn't let go. Anne put a calm hand on Charlotte's back for a short time. After that, she took a step back. There was no other way to explain it. Anne put a calm hand on Charlotte's back, and then took a step back. There was no other way to explain it. Just like nothing had happened, she turned around and walked toward the tent, and the people inside. She stopped just before she got there. She put her hand on her face. She wiped her tears away and kept